So we are at ISE 2026. We are on the show floor, although we've got a quiet room, and we're talking about sustainable signage, and I've asked two experts to join me today to help us with this topic. So could you please both introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm Martin. I'm product manager for Shop Display Solutions for Europe, responsible for the whole LCD display business for Europe. That's including e-paper technology, which we will be talking about today. And sustainability is one of the main topics that drives how we create products. We really do want to make a change. My personal motto is be part of the change that you want to see in the world. And if we don't start as a manufacturer, then who else should do that for us?
Yeah, what a great intro. I am Laila Hede Jensen. I work as a business consultant and have been in the industry for about 20 years. I know as a lady we say 15 plus, but you know, been around for a bit. So I've seen how the industry has grown up. And I work in M&A, so I advise investors in support on acquiring companies. And for them it's important, and thank goodness that they're putting into the agenda that it's now coming, because we need to influence as much as we can from all sides. And that's a great lever for that point. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much for joining me. So I haven't got round much of the show floor yet, but my first observation is if we go back to the second ISE here at Barcelona, we saw a lot actually of representation when it came to sustainability messaging, circular economy, how people had reduced the power consumption of their products. It was everywhere. It was a real buzz. I worry that there's a little fatigue on this topic because it doesn't feel as well represented out there, and yet there are still some great stories to tell. So I wonder what sustainable signage means to you. And we'll start with you, Laila, because you see it right from every aspect of the channel, users right the way through to the manufacturers. What do you think it really means now?
It means to take something serious. Because like we talked about the fatigue, and I think it's because it's not being pushed as an agenda. It's just a topic that we think is interesting to talk about, instead of actually driving it from the top down. And when it comes to signage, signage is not just the software, it's not just the hardware, but it's also the content. And there are so many aspects we can do to prevent from using too much power and so forth. So from that side, we should have a responsibility. And I often say when it comes to sustainability, which is close to my heart, just do it. It's the Nike slogan. Because it's for the greater good. It
is for the greater good. Do you think that people know how to get started?
No, I think that's the issue. This is, we talk about so many different things, but there's not a top 5. But I think we talked about this before, but the top 1 should just do it in your day-to-day life. Just implement the small things in the offices, you know. Just start and then have the conversation about being much more sustainable in the long run. But it has to start from the executive level. It has to be policies. We know that in Europe, and I have to compare as we are in a global world, that Europe is the forefront. We talk about it. We have the ESG, we have the CSRD, we have all the rules and regulations. And it's not a matter of just getting started. It will be a starting point. You don't have to measure towards anybody else. Measure towards your own results.
Yeah.
So start measuring just a couple of bits, and then see how you progress, and then have it as a KPI in all the departments, from the top to the bottom of the organization. Because often when a KPI, it's measurable. Everything in sustainability is measurable, so we can make a difference. And it should be part of every company's DNA, because I want to do something better for the world. Now, we talk about products and how you produce the products, and I really admire that, because that should be the first thing you think. But then when we come to the US, it's not on the agenda, and I have to force it every time I have a conversation. What's your policy? And they're like, what are you talking about, sustainability? I'll leave it to someone else. But then who's going to change the world? Who's going to make it better for us? Who's going to start it, right? We all have, it's our duty to do it. And it can be in all different levels and all different tasks that we have.
I think it's interesting with Europe because actually the regulations that are in place now are forcing some elements of change that affect us all globally. So we're not going to see a sustainable SKU of one product and an unsustainable SKU for rest of world. So naturally, the changes in manufacturing and packaging and similar, that probably does roll out across the globe, which is good for us. But I think the CSRD has really helped in terms of everybody measuring their operational carbon footprint. They now have a baseline, they know how to improve. But actually, it's quite difficult to show the benefits, for example, then in your CSRD, of working with products like yours that are built with circular economy in mind, because it's harder to score well on your CSRD by making that purchasing decision. There isn't really a way to offset that, to my knowledge, in that report. So you've been doing this for a long time. I think the sort of sharp NEC movement was long before the hype around sustainability. So you're the perfect guest here for this show. Just run through for our listeners who maybe don't know as much about the Sharp LCD range, what's special.
So it's, as you said, it starts at the very beginning of the creation, the design, the thinking of what our market needs as an AV solution. So I'm responsible for LCD, but this starts not only with my product category, but with all of the thinking, how we approach what type of solution we do want to push and want to design. And as Laila said, this should be in every company's DNA. And this starts within our design team here in Europe, but always aligning with our peers in US. ISE and many of these events and many of the projects becoming more and more a sort of global standard approach. This same thing is what we have been doing for over a decade, consulting with customers on a global scale, creating product SKUs and the right solution on a global scale. We align with our peers, with my peer from the US for my product category, and we do know, as you said, Europe is the first one, always taking the step, always asking for one more, and we do see that this whole product creation process, if you lead it this way, and if the push really comes from that side, then it makes a product much more complex, but much more efficient in the end. Yes, the cost benefit is something that is the other end. You say top down within a company. I would say left or right within the whole product to end user chain. If you take us as a manufacturer, we design, I push for sustainable packaging of the products. We have partners that we select based on their credo. We have projects that we coach into using the right technology. It's not only the product itself, but also with that product range that we create, knowing that a project can be solved in 7 different ways. Which product is actually the right one? Which technology consumes less power? And if we take this to the very, I would say, the left end of this chain, there is one thing that eventually on the long shot we need to change, which is the other end, that is the end user. How do you qualify this? Anyone wants to have a bright LED on the street. Well, I tell you, what are you showing on this LED? Is it a static image? Then that's the wrong technology. I've been asked like, I want to have this technology for my solution. And I might be saying, no, that's the wrong one. I would not go for that one. Even knowing that I would have a greater sell with that technology that he was requesting. It's not only about the business, it's about creating the full chain of awareness and not just focus on sustainability.
And the mindset. Because everything you're saying about the mindsets. Yes. Sustainability is mindset and a process. But it's also about the use case. Of course, you're absolutely right. But we have to educate them. Because we understand, and for me, sometimes when I have a conversation about sustainability, I think, oh my goodness, you're so uneducated. But of course, we're on different levels.
Absolutely.
And it's our job to get them to our level, which is, of course, is what we need to do.
Absolutely. And that with
the end users,
yeah,
it's so important that they have it as mandatory in the RFPs, in their conversations.
Correct.
You have to, their vendors has to have a policy. Yes, on sustainability, absolutely. Just as a standard, all the transportation, just the small little things can work. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't come from the one who actually, I think it's probably going to say this wrong, but controls the project, because they do. It's their money, they're the client, they're always
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So if they say it, then the mindset will drop down to all the other levels that there are. Or at least that's where I think we can make a change.
Absolutely.
Right?
Consultants, platform, replication. You say the mindset. Our problem is technology advances much faster than us as humans adapting to the processes, the differences in technology. We haven't even finished digesting the technology before we're already launching the new one, the next one. Go higher, go lower, go brighter. Well, where in all that are we as manufacturers, as project leaders, as end users, trying to make a balance out of finding the right way? There is even consultants are somewhere in on the spot when they want to win the project. They are in for the business. It's not just fun. Yeah, a project can lead to fun. They're in for the business. Well, yes, but that's where we need to tackle it. Coaching them, what our credo is from both sides. A manufacturer creating a product maybe costs $1 more, but it's a product that is longer lasting. Yeah. So there is really a lot that we can still do in education, in awareness, in how we word even our marketing team, putting emphasis, and everyone around the AV industry. A lot of highlights. And you said this fatigue, you mentioned this happened a lot. 2022, 23, words, words, excitement. And then what? Did someone implement that?
But it's typical. You're missing the execution.
Exactly.
It's typically, we don't want to go into strategic work, but that's it. You do a plan, looks great. Where's the execution? You always have the execution. You're missing it.
I think there's some legislation at play there as well. So there's a regulations coming in the EU around green marketing. So this is going to prevent people from using the terms green, environmentally friendly, etc., sustainable, without being able to back that up. And I believe by a third party as well, so you can't sort of mark your own homework. Yes, and that's great. And I wonder if perhaps some of the marketing quietened down in lieu of those companies going off and finding that certification so that they can proudly state it further down the line. We sort of touched on power briefly there, and I think that is quite an interesting one. So a long time ago, when we were more projection-led than we were display-led, I recall whenever I took a classroom projector or business projector out of a box, it fired up in eco mode. So its default was to work at its more sustainable, eco-friendly setting, and I needed to manually up that brightness if I required it. Does signage work the same for us? And can we do something similar? And how are we going to get that message across to people to make sure they're not using more power and energy than they need to?
It's the tiny things that we have been preaching for, I would say, almost decade or more. Eco sensors,
yes.
the brightness,
ambient light sensors,
ambient light sensors, emotion and human presence sensors. We do have them, and we showcase them every year again, and we do promote them. It's the small things like, how do you push your display out of the box to a customer? What's the preset? Many of them install and don't even touch. So yes, this eco mode is still something that is in, and it's regulated. You are not allowed to do whatever you want out of the box, but it's the mindset of the people. You wouldn't believe how many times I talk about these things, and people who are knowledged and supposedly knowledged about these things ask you like, oh, what's that? And you say like, hey, but we talked about this many times and in the projects, and we position this. So we do have a lot of tools that we built in our technology, rethinking how can we still optimize. This year we even did some changes, optimizing so that not everyone gets everything right from out of the box, not wasting, adding technology to that, and in LED technology even reducing the brightness, reducing the power consumption by changing certain things on the technologies. I mean, this is in the core of our credo and how we create this technology. So yes, power consumption is one, but there's a second part, because this is purely technological. The second one, going back to what we insisted on earlier, is, well, pitching that and coaching customers and partners to use the right technology, not just because you have
But
that
understanding
available.
it. So when it comes to
Understanding it
digital
with
signage and the whole
sense.
ecosystem, it's not
Yes.
just about the software and the hardware and all of that, but it's understanding
Absolutely.
the purpose and what do you want to achieve.
Yes,
and often
mindset.
we measure things, and often it's sales or it's footfall or whatever we want to. And content is quite important, but understanding just small little things like having the timer so that it drops when you're measuring the footfall anyway. So if the footfall drops, just turn it down or shut it off if there's no people. So all these sensors has a lot to do, but people often don't want to invest in the sensors because they think it's a lot of money. But then again, when do you choose when it's sustainable and when it's not? So they just got to be educated about it. But you can save 40% by syncing the measurement you're already making with your control of your software or the ecosystem that you have. And it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Because you have everything in place anyways. And it's about thinking those small little places. And also the content can do a lot.
Yes.
Obviously. But it's the hidden energy drains that we have to find and then elaborate on, and especially on digital signage ecosystems.
And what about full power downs? How willing are customers now, our estates, to fully power down
But it's
their
difficult.
signage when they're shut, I guess, when they're closed? Because I walk past many store windows and it's very late, they're not open,
Okay.
and it's still on, and I understand it is an advertising opportunity still. So it is difficult, but do you find that users are comfortable fully powering down equipment, or are they hoping to run it 24/7 in a more sustainable way?
You can go both ways. So there's one thing we have to understand. It is a revenue stream for the customer and the client. And that's okay. You can do it more sustainable. So it's fair enough because you can have the screen in lower brightness. It doesn't have to be bright. If you use the tricks that we talked about earlier with the content, having it less, then you have less power, it's always a good thing because every retail square meter space is important. You can sell it. So the customer doesn't want to shut off the screen completely, but you can be wise about the content you you publish at the time, and that's the part you have to consider, I think.
Yeah, and there are built-in mechanisms to protect and even reduce brightness, as I said. But there's another thing: creating a solution that is robust enough. Again, from the mindset of creation to the implementation, what we find is the biggest problem to many is the fear of, if I do a full shutdown, what will happen in the morning?
With the hardware.
With the hardware, with the software integration, with everything.
This comes from old school, lady.
I know.
It's the same
But
thing.
it's
It's a bit old-fashioned.
It
We've got
has
everything
stuck.
under control.
Yeah.
But I think, and I do understand it in a complex boardroom with a control system in the center, and the risk that something powers off in the state that it wasn't recognized as being in, and that so causes you all these problems. But in a world of typically player cloud display,
Super easy.
there's not a lot that can go wrong, is there?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Absolutely agree. So, and that's the thing. It comes from an age where you did have less handshakes between technologies. We work closely with partners exactly about these topics. We focus on finding who's right and how we can improve these things. With that on focus. So, I really I enjoy living this in an era where technology can drive the change.
Especially on the software side.
Absolutely.
I know that's my area of expertise, but in QSR, which is quick service restaurants, some of the softwares you can sync or link with your POS system. So you understand what sells a certain point of time, and then you can push the advertisement so you sell more of the things that is running out of date. Because we also need to think about sustainability is not just about the hardware and the power and everything else, it's also about food waste.
Everything you do.
So this is just another level. So understanding how I connect to systems at the back that's already tracking. And then the food waste, when something is running out of date, publish it up so that you want 2 for 1, or you get a special discount at this time of hour, and then you get rid of that. Then we're saving another bit on that.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of digital signage, or at least some of it.
It's very interesting, actually. There's a audio brand here this week who are working with a streaming provider, like a Spotify for business. They're called Cusick, and actually they're doing all of this in their audio streaming software, very similar, so it can listen to the ambient noise levels and adjust the volume. Now, it's not going to give us the same level of gains that we will in terms of, but it's exactly what you're talking about with footfall and when to show that content, etc. And they're the same. They can add in, they do text-to-speech advertising to get rid of stock products that they need to, or put a special offer on that. So it can all tie into this bigger message. I think what I would like to touch on, though, is what the user can maybe do to help in terms of their content choices. So if they're starting their advertising or signage and content journey, and they want to make sustainable choices, what can they do in terms of content? Or should they be choosing the content that is right for them and then selecting the technology that makes that sustainable? What's the right way round?
Oh, half, I would say.
Oh, I'm the latter. Okay,
You
go first and then I'll elaborate.
I like both approaches. So, basic example, whenever we create presentations and in-house, outbound, we use different technologies as a manufacturer, LCD or LED. Now, we always go and make bright presentations, have it on their colors, corporate identity, and there you go. The Martin, but for LED, says, no, for LED, do black content, do black background. LEDs are all off.
I mean, let's just take sustainability out of this. White content on LED is blinding and gives you a headache as well.
And that's the point. It kills.
Shouldn't be allowed. But you have to. So when we talk about content in digital signage, content is something that the client does to get you, I'm sorry I'm going to say this, but to manipulate you to do a certain action. So I'm not thinking about presentations or anything else or Excel sheets, because you shouldn't do that on an Excel. Sorry, you shouldn't do that on an LED screen. But when the content comes in, I will spend a lot of money on creating the content, and the content is built exactly for the audience that's looking at it. So
fit the technology to it.
Exactly, yes. That's why, because the content has to have the effect on the audience, otherwise it's just a poster and it's a waste of money. And in digital signage, it's about getting the audience to behave in the way we want. Go buy more, or I need you to stop and take the content in. So the content is the beauty of digital signage, because it can make sure you achieve your purpose, to be honest. And I come from the manufacturer world, but understanding the creative part of how much I can manipulate someone else with a content, just a video in front of you. I've got you in my hands. The same with music, which is really interesting. We just said that earlier. It can get you in a different state of mind. And it's magic.
Yeah.
And it's emotional, and more content has to be emotional. It has to talk to me, and not the masses. If it talks to the masses, it just blends in and becomes a white noise.
Yeah.
And Gen Z it's going to be our workforce, and it's the biggest. They're going to be our biggest end users as well. They're going to be our consumers, and they are sustainable. So I'm such a fan of that part of the generation, because they demand now from companies, you need to have a sustainability process. That's the policy. That's the first thing they're going to ask when they get hired. If you don't have the policies, then you're not going to attract the talents. Exactly. And they will buy with sustainability in mind.
But provable processes behind it.
Correct.
And for this, from technology perspective, yes, I fully agree. That speaks to them, and music, senses, all this gets to you. But what is also changing is applying the right technology. Visually loud, that attracts you, that turns your head, that gets you one step closer. The thing is, if you then want that step, that emotion, to be converted into, oh, now I need the information, but what do I, that's where you eventually change technology and have something, and you see this, many shops combine flashy and loud with information. I always say, 2 examples, a display attracts you, it's visually loud, attraction. Then you have maybe something next to it, static, that is calm, that informs you, that might get you that answers, because
different
that
purpose.
exactly, and that same generation, they come closer, they take the step, but then they want the information, they don't walk by. If they did that, then they want to get something out of it, and that's the way you can bring them and manipulating to that, but then actually getting your message across, which carries more than just the flashy visually now.
So I'm going to elevate that.
Yeah.
So I want to take it earlier in the cycle, because
Yes.
we always have the customer journey wherever
Yeah.
it starts, and the younger generation starts on the mobile phone. The
There we go,
omni-channel
yes.
is of the essence. So I need to, use the right platform and the right channels for the audience that I have, and the youngsters are always on their phone. But we also need to change the content so that it actually appeals to them. So that's why what you said before, it's so important what device we have. It has to work, otherwise it's just white noise. So you're absolutely right, but we also have to hit,
And then we're
the
draining
combination.
power and resources for no reason. That's
Yes,
the thing, isn't it?
correct,
That is
yeah.
wastage,
Yeah.
and there's no need for it. We talked about provable, and I think you guys have a stat. Is it 90-something% of the materials are recyclable in your LCD range? Just very quickly, there's a lot of hype in the hardware world about the use of post-consumer materials. But I've found that sometimes that renders the product to not be recyclable. So just on your side with Sharp, you have the product that is almost entirely recyclable, so it's a great sustainable buying choice. And you've also taken that one step further, and I believe you're now offering people extended warranties. If we
Second
can, you
life.
can, yes. Could you just briefly tell our listeners about that?
Yes, absolutely. So two things. First one is the full circle round in sustainability, but also bringing it one notch up. Second life, this what you just referred to, is being so sure that my technology is sustainable but long lasting from
Yes.
design, from production, that we enable partners to go ahead and have a second step forward the cell, the equipment that they might want to change earlier on, but with the full set of warranties that we provide in the first place. Mm-hmm. And this is because we do believe and show that we not only speak about it, but we act on it. There is a thing where they always speak about the carbon footprint in it. So if you have a device produced in Asia and then you fly it in because the project was urgent and somebody screwed up planning, well, carbon footprint and sustainability goes down the drain. Yeah. If you have a longer route and the ship has to go through South Africa, mm-hmm. carbon footprint changes. So sustainability is also being able to create this whole process in an efficient way. That means if you do the whole traceability of it, it's not only speaking about it, it's proving it, as you said, and then showing it with the trust in your own products. We give a second life, of course we do, but we also calculate and we enable companies who want to do this and do the math within their scope of we are a green company buying green products. Yeah, for sure.
You're rewarding good behavior.
And proving it. This
Yes.
is actually our footprint based on this and this and this.
Yes.
Facts, not just the nice message.
And how often do we ask our clients, what's your end-of-life strategy?
We do, yes.
Yes,
It's
I'm sure you do.
It's
But the thing is
crazy.
also...
Nobody has it. Nobody.
That's it.
We offered it. We offer buybacks for many years. Projectors,
What about
displays.
donation? Because one of the things I really like is that
Universities.
it should be mandatory that you donate to universities.
Yes. Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
others, because then it's the full circle.
Yes.
Instead of just, I know you have to get rid of it in a certain way, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But use the product
donation,
until
and
it's
then-
dead at
Exactly.
least. At least get it
And
to
then
the
just,
end of its
instead
life.
of 4 to 5 years, can we
Yeah.
just say the lifetime is, I don't know if I'm doing something contradictionary,
Yeah.
that's your place, but it's just
Yeah.
3 years,
Feel
and
free.
then someone else has 2 years.
Yes.
And I think that's, give it life somewhere else.
Yes.
For someone else who needs it and can't afford it.
So we already did some of these approaches, especially for products going end of life, something that is eventually not even being sold out because new generation, newer features, higher and speed up projects, and we have 2 or 3 things that are left over in our stock. And what do? We pick and we see where can we make the difference? I don't like scrapping, and I avoid it every single time. I approach people and say, look, you have a project, you have a partner, you have a university, wherever, but use it in a smart way, being conscious of the difference that you actually make with that decision.
And it's the mindset.
Yes.
Because there's
again.
so many people, instead of repairing and reusing, just throw it
Scrap
out.
and buy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the mindset that it comes back to.
Yeah.
So we have just 2 more minutes before we get kicked out for the next people. And I wanted to finish on a final question to both of you. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I might be wrong. So far, and I know it's day one, so it's not really very fair, a great example or a new technology or something to tell our listeners, something groundbreaking in this area for sustainability and signage. It can be a piece of guidance or an interesting piece of technology that you've seen. I have a feeling, Martin, you're going to talk about e-paper.
I was about to jump in with that. It's one of the things where I said, choose the right technology for purpose.
Okay.
I always have a saying where there are 7 different ways of doing something, a project, a flashy wall. Well, sometimes you end up using an LCD display full on for a static information display. Choose the right technology, and that might be e-paper. That might be changing larger surfaces. We're getting there to cover larger surfaces with a fraction of the energy that you consume for a large LED wall.
Right, we'll make sure that our viewers and listeners get access to have a little look at the details on your e-paper. And
Thank you
Laila,
very
from
much.
you, advice to the industry, to any of those channel partners about how to start their sustainability journey.
Just do it. It's very short and efficient. Just start wherever you can and just think about your day-to-day life and think it into the process you have. Even if it's vendors, if it's end users, if it's manufacturers, put it on the agenda and make sure that it comes on the executive level so it's actually going to get executed, ! Because we need to well, small thing matters, anything matters, but it's actually doing it. So let's stop being lazy and let's put it on the agenda and,
End of story.
go big or go home.
Stop being lazy.
There you go. I like that one.
Thank you both for joining me. This will go out as part of our Midwich Live or Midwich On Air stream later in the month with some nice B-roll and examples of the products that we've spoken about. So thanks for being here, guys.